Hello, everyone. Liana, Boraas, and Marisa Connors from RHAP has a podcast here, and we are beyond excited because today we are talking with the fabulous judges from Lego Masters. That's right, it's Amy and Jamie. Welcome to the podcast, and thank you both so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
We're
hi.
excited to chat.
Nice to
Yes.
meet you. Love the color on Maria's background. Marisa's background.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is my home office
Yeah.
that I'm sitting in. It's my Lego office. So yeah,
Love
very
it.
excited to meet you guys.
Yeah, we both grew up playing with Lego. Marisa, obviously, you can see still very much in the Lego game.
Yeah.
So this is a true joy for us. Before we talk about the show, we just wanted to get your Lego origin story. Maybe Amy, you can kick this off. How did you get into Lego in the first place? How did you end up working there?
It is a good question. In school, I always enjoyed doing maths and I enjoyed doing art. And I was like, how on earth do I combine something in university that has both of these things? And I found a course called Product Design Engineering that I studied at Glasgow University. And basically, it was a fun course, but there was a lot of quite heavy engineering. So every time I got a project, I would twist it to be something fun, something playful. It was just kind of my mechanism to get through studying quite a heavy subject. And then I realized that actually I was quite good at making these fun and playful things. And maybe I should take it into my career. So I started thinking, what can I do with that? Maybe toys would be cool. And we're better than to be at Lego HQ and straight out of uni, actually, pretty much.
Oh, wow.
I got a job at Lego HQ. I kind of like shot for it. And then I was like, wow, actually, I got this job. I guess I'm moving to Denmark next month. and I've been there for almost 10 years now.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So yeah, I mean, that's essentially your entire career.
Yeah,
so far,
yeah.
Right? At Lego. That's amazing.
Yeah, but I've had a chance to do lots of different things there, be on a TV show, but work on lots of different product lines as well. So I've had a really diverse career. I haven't felt like I've been like stuck in something. I've always been in exciting new things all the time.
Yeah.
Excellent. And Jamie, you're a little different, right?
He has a great. Jamie has the story, so I'm glad you asked me first.
I'm a little bit different in that I've always been a lifelong Lego fan. And so I always wanted to somehow find a way to work for the Lego company, but I never knew how that could be. So in the meantime, I was trying all kinds of jobs. So I was a monorail pilot and I was a video editor and I was a dispatcher and a surveyor and all kinds of things. And my parents just encouraged me to just keep at it. And they just said, just try stuff, see if you like it. And if it doesn't work out, just don't stay, try something else. And so just doing that gave me lots of exposure to many different things, trying to figure out where I was going. And then the whole time in the evenings, instead of watching TV like a lot of people do, I would use the Lego bricks as a creative medium to make crazy stuff. And then I would go to fan events and we would actually show them to the public. And strangely enough, it was at one of those fan events that was my job interview, that the Lego company was looking to bring in a Lego fan like myself. And I got recruited. And that's how I got into the Lego company. And I've been there now 17 years making amazing, fun Lego experiences.
That's like something from a fan fiction of what Lego fans dream of. You're literally living
that's
the dream.
Definitely what I've dreamed of.
Isn't it? That's why
awesome.
he has the great story. So I'm glad that you asked me first. I can't compete with that story. And now actually, since you started at the company, that we have lots of fans working. It was like a success story, and now there's lots of people we actively recruit. Yeah. Fans who are just great with building with Lego bricks. And I think that's something so special about the Lego group, actually, that it's not just about your education, it's also about the skills and what you can bring to the company.
Well, and people who are... go ahead.
It's just that team dynamic. That's where Amy and I balance each other, because Amy has the professional design training and I have the Lego background. And then when we come together, it's like magic because we just complement each other.
Well, had the two of you worked together before being judges on Lego Masters, or how did you get involved in the show in general?
We had not worked together, have we?
It's strange because it's not a very big, it's a big company, but it doesn't feel very big in the design area. And yet Amy and I were just working in very different areas of the company. I was working on making products for teens and super fans and adults. And Amy's been working on the kids products.
Yeah, and I was much more on the kids side and how can we like bring new creative experiences for kids. So we saw each other in the office. We've been to a few like team workshops together, but we'd never actually worked together until day one of filming Lego Masters. And we knew we were both nice people, but we didn't really know each other well. And you're like, it's an intense environment to be in with someone you don't know. Like it can get pretty heated in the judging if you don't agree. So you have to find a way to come to a decision. But it's really lucky that actually we get on super well. Like, you only see half of it on camera, I think, of how well we get on. We're actually BFFs off camera now as well. Yeah. And we hang out and we have fun together. And we're really happy that we ended up that way. And it was a success story rather than a disaster.
Yeah, it's been awesome watching you guys over the last 3 seasons, and you can definitely see you guys gelling and coming together over those seasons. And then also, on Instagram and Twitter, it's you post you guys hanging out. That's always awesome. That's very cool to see. So speaking of, being hard judging, that's got to be a really kind of difficult thing, because I know, obviously there's editing and TV, but the Lego community in general has always seems really supportive. Everybody's really excited about each other's builds. So that's got to be a very tough thing, to put on that hat and become the judge.
Yeah, I think it was it's quite different from our day job. So in our day job, we're always like critiquing our team's work. How can you make it better? But suddenly going from your team, where you're really supporting them and boosting them and helping them to get the best out of it, to being on that side where you're the judge and you have to make harsh decisions, was a really weird transition. And also, I think learning how to explain to the audience in a very short amount of time why you're making these decisions and how you've come to, your final conclusions with that edit that you have on TV. I think that's been a learning journey for Jamie and I. How do you quickly communicate the points to the contestants and to the people at home?
But I think the show has also evolved, where I think the first season we were trying to figure things out. So they were trying to, make us a little bit more of the tough judges. And then they very quickly realized that the Lego community is very different and that it's a very supportive community. For a competition show to have everybody cheering for each other is very odd, because you want people to go home so you get closer to the win. But it's quite the opposite on our show. So I think once we saw that, and the production side said, oh, this is very different, they allowed us, I think, to be more in our natural role, like we do at work, where we do get to coach, we do get to help people. We just had to make sure we were always doing it in front of everybody, so that way everybody benefited from it. So I think that's where we're the most happy, is that where we landed, even though we have to send people home, I think we're in a good place that people now better understand that they went home, and hopefully they went home on a really good build, because we're trying to give them that constructive critique along the way. And honestly, the caliber of talent is just so high. I think most people, when they go home, are just high-fiving themselves like, I had no idea that I could stand in this crowd of people and hold my own. And that's where I think we're at a good place, that people are actually, in some ways, in a good place when even something as tragic as having to go home. The way that it's happened is actually quite good.
Yeah. I think that's something that's really stood out to me about the show. There's no Lego Gordon Ramsay, right? Like, that's just not the community of Lego. It just comes across as everyone's so supportive. And even in, these past couple episodes, when either something falls tragically off of and breaks apart, everybody's so sad, but also cheering. And it just all seems so supportive. I guess that leads me to my question, which is, what is sort of the biggest shock about being on television compared to, as you already mentioned, the critiquing is one part of it, but there's so much more, I'm sure, that goes on behind the scenes.
I think one of the big realizations for Jamie and I is that it takes a long time to film an episode, right? You kick it off, they have 12 hours maybe to build. You do the judging of every single build. It takes a lot of time, and you are really coaching them as you go along. And I think we see one side, and then of course they got to cram everything down into 44 minutes. So a lot of that advice you give, a lot of the critique, a lot of the reasoning behind everything has to be cut out just to make it for TV, because there's a lot of hardcore fans out there, but I'm not sure anybody wants to watch the 16 hours of raw footage. So I think for us, there was definitely a big learning in watching the show back, and how we can actually be better communicators and better judges to help the edit, so that everyone at home can kind of understand a condensed version of what has been happening. So really, like, having that one summarizing line, and then you can elaborate, and all of the teams can hear the real critique in minute details. For me, that's one of the biggest learnings, I think.
Yeah. I think for me, it's probably that when you have 12 amazing teams, 11 of them are going to be disappointed. And so you have to, at some level, be comfortable with that reality, because with it comes fan bases and people that really want to see everyone succeed, and they hopefully love all of our teams, and they'll pick their favorites along the way. And then, it was a little bit tough, I think, at the beginning to get comfortable with that idea of disappointment for so many people. But I think that's where the evolution of the show has helped me quite a bit, because I think we're in a better place now that a lot of the teams actually are quite okay if they have to go home, as long as they understand why.
Mm-hmm.
And to Amy's point, I think that's where it's super important for us. Even if it doesn't make it in the final edit, we want to make sure they go home with a good experience and that they understand what happened, because there's a risk that they could just revisit it when it airs again and again, and they're on an airplane somewhere, and then they're in a streaming service. Like, once the show is out, that's maybe another surprise, is that it goes global.
Yeah.
And you might be surprised that you can get a message from somebody that's commenting on the show 2 years later, 3 years later, because they just happened to see it on an airplane. And then it's like, oh yeah, I guess once it's out, it's out. And you always have to be ready for that moment to be revisited.
I can definitely see that.
You talked about, Amy, a little bit about the hour-long builds. I mean, Jamie, are you guys there the whole time? I mean, what do the days look like? Is it a 20-hour day?
Yeah, we're there quite a bit of it.
Oh no.
There are moments that we have to step away and deliberate or talk about some of the things that are going on. But otherwise, even when we're not on the stage or on the set, we're actually behind the set. We have access to all the video feeds. Even if I go back to my hotel room, which I wouldn't do, but I have access to the video feeds to still be watching. And I think there's something that's really cool and weird about, if you really want to, you can see the whole build happening. And that's where we've gotten quite clever to know which teams we think are struggling or doing particularly well, to then maybe bring them more in focus. And then we can actually just watch them a bit more and see what their dynamic is. What are they working on? Have they shifted? Are they using their time wisely? And that really helps us go in to give our critiques, or when we're coming in, we're not just going in cold. We've actually been watching them and been there the whole journey. So that way now when we give an input, it hopefully has impact.
And I saw you gasp there, Liana, but I have to say, it's sometimes hard to pull us away from those screens. Like, sometimes Jamie's doing an interview and he's away for like 20 minutes and I'm like, Jamie, you missed so much. And like, there's cameras on there's like 14 cameras. So you're seeing all the teams at the same time. You can watch the different pieces. And for us, I think it's so fascinating, not just to see the build come together, but to see the thought process of the team, like that spark when they get an idea and they're running to the brick pit and they're so excited and they almost can't get it out because they're trying to tell their teammate. I think it's those moments that we actually enjoy watching so much, as well as seeing the build come to life and the little disasters they have along the way and the little triumphs. I think that's also what makes us get to know the teams so well. And that's what makes it so hard to send them home at the end. But we really enjoy watching as much as we can, actually.
So in watching all of those, like, obviously you guys now have had a lot of experience seeing these teams build and come up with ideas. So is there a challenge in the last couple seasons that you guys would have wanted to compete in?
Ooh, that's a good one. There's several, I think.
I mean, they all look fun. When we started the podcast, I thought it'd be fun to do that. But now with the 14 hours, I don't think.
I think one that Jamie and I always talked about that would be a lot of fun was the storybook challenge in season 1.
Yeah.
When we had the kids in and they were like, build a book chicken and a chicken waker. And I think both of us were like, ooh, what could that be? And I think that was one where we really stood on set, watched everyone kind of just quietly coming up with their ideas. And we were like, what would we build? What would our ideas be? And we were sparked a lot of what we would build together in that one. So that's one I would really enjoy building. I don't know if you have a different
and I have to say, I have a soft spot for amusement park rides. That's how I got hired into the company, is I had a big amusement park that I had made. So when we had the amusement park challenge, I am just like, put me in. Just let me do this.
That was a neat one. Mark and Boone's build was pretty cool in that one.
Yeah, it was heart-wrenching.
It was so heartbreaking. I know.
And I think one that we would have definitely found challenging is this last challenge, the Rodeo Bill one.
Oh yeah.
I think both of us were like, like workshopping on like, what would we do? What will work? And I think Jamie even said it at one point, like he would eat his words for humble pie. He had us taking a slice of humble pie because we would predict one thing and something different was happening because that bull was just absolutely crazy. So that was one I did not envy the teams on that challenge. We really pushed them on that and it was so impressive what they created.
It was, yeah. It was impressive to watch. We we have rodeo in our town, and just knowing kind of the movements, it seemed like once they got to level 7 and you put that rotation in, that seemed to be kind of that, fail or not
Yeah.
there. But yeah, it was impressive to watch for sure.
And I have to say, we have a lot of experience with making Lego models and products and things. And then we also test all of these challenges beforehand. We have a whole crew that looks at it. And even with all of that, we are still continually just shocked at some of the things that happen. I mean, the towers that shake, and then, the things that we think are going to make them strong, and then goes completely opposite. There's just something that is a fluke that surprises us. The rodeo bull for sure.
But the rodeo bull one was definitely, I think we describe it as this make or break challenge. Like, we knew when we started that challenge, it was either going to be a great episode, so much fun, or it was going to be a disaster where every single one falls off at one, and we've got nothing to judge. So that's where we're always hoping, like, I hope there's a few people who at least can get far enough.
And with the golden brick writing on that episode too, it's like, congrats, you made it to level 3. Here's the golden brick. Well, so what is the creative process for coming up with all of these wildly different challenges? You mentioned the team, but how do you even begin?
I mean,
we have a challenge team. And so throughout the year, they're actually still working behind the scenes, coming up with ideas. We also have some experience because there's other versions of the show around the world that sometimes it inspires something that we know, oh, cool, they did this really neat upside down build or something. And we always want to be still doing our own content, but we get a sense of the things that were really fun or inspiring. And that combination of them coming to us with some great ideas, we have some thoughts of our own. And then we just have this like brainstorm session where we kind of lay it all out. And then we also try to map out the challenges as well, because we know that the teams are different. Some of them are very technical, and some of them have a lot of building experience and the fan community, but then others are very creative. They're wonderful sculptors, or they're storytellers. And so we want to make sure that we have that flow or that balance, that we can actually give everybody a chance to hopefully hit that challenge that celebrates, what their superpower is. And I think that's where it's a really fun exercise, is that we can have the best of intentions for some of the challenges, and then we just have the surprises. But we're also trying to sometimes do something that is a little bit pushing the envelope. And there still are some challenges that we're still trying 3 seasons later that we haven't quite gotten right. And then when we do, it's going to be awesome. But we're not quite there yet.
And then, as Jamie said, we have like a whole team of great builders who actually test these challenges to work out, like, how fast should this build go? How long will it take for this challenge? Like, how big can you actually build? What's achievable? Because you want to push the builders as far as possible, but you also want to see some level of success, right? For them to feel good and for it to be an entertaining show. So I think there's a lot of testing and trial and error to make things work. And sometimes right down to the last minute, we're fine tuning these challenges. So there's so much planning, but then we even change things like on the fly a couple of days before to just make them the best challenges possible. It's a lot of fun. And then something like the fashion challenge, we wanted to do since the beginning, right? We've always thought it would be cool to do a fashion challenge, and we just couldn't get anything to work until the Hat's Incredible, which was such a successful challenge that I think now other shows around the world are like, that was a cool challenge. I think they just did it in the Netherlands. They did that same challenge because it was so successful. So I think it's so interesting how sometimes we take a while and then we're like, oh, this could be a cool idea. Should we try hats and a fashion show? And I think that was one of my favorite episodes ever.
That was, that showcased the creativity a lot, but then you also had to have the balance of walking, and it was fun seeing teams incorporate other, jewelry and other things in their builds too in that one. I agree.
I think that's been another really striking thing about the show, is truly the creativity that so many of these different teams have. How do you begin to judge and, separate out between the tops and the bottoms?
It's so tough with creativity because it's in a way subjective, right? Creativity. And I think what's really surprised me is how much it's captivated the hearts of people at home, this creativity, and how much people are like, wow, I never would have thought of that idea. And in some ways, the creativity is the thing at home that people judge the most on, what they personally think is the creativity, and what they then are like, really? You sent that one home? I wouldn't have come up with that idea. So I think it is the hardest one to put a metric on, but because Jamie and I have seen so many builds in our work life, so many builds in Lego Masters, we try and compare to benchmarks we have. And that's probably the area we also have the longest discussion on, trying to put some metrics on, so it isn't just an eeny, meeny, miny, mo. We never want the judging to be like a random. We always want to put some sort of metric behind it, and then thinking about what that actual challenge was asking for in terms of creativity. What did we really ask our teams to build? What was going to make them stand out or be different?
Yeah, because I think that's probably for me where we can make the best judgment, is that we know all of the teams can make incredible models. So we almost have that as a default. Of course, they're going to be great, which is a strange place to start. But then it really is about what was asked for this specific challenge. And that's where sometimes you might have seen in the past, there are incredible models that go home. It's just they didn't actually fulfill what we asked as much as others. And it sounds nitpicky, but in the competition where everybody's doing great things, you really want to see where people take the chance, where they go out of their comfort zone, that they don't, if they're good at making dragons or castles, they don't every time fall back on that and try to fit it in and tell a story around why there should be a castle or a dragon. So we actually are trying to push the teams to do different things. And that's where I personally, and this is where sometimes we have some of these discussions, I personally like ambition, and I like it when people take a chance. And as long as they still deliver something great, I'm okay if some of the things didn't work out, as long as they tried. And then you just hope others did a little worse. So it's always that risk, but I think I really celebrate that level of creativity when people just try something different.
No, I think you guys have done a really good job. And I mean, the editing obviously is part of it. But when Liana and I talk about the episodes, that's one thing that we try to discuss is like, I try to point out, okay, but here's the criteria. And this is, you know, why this build went home. It was probably the right choice. And so I think you guys have done a really good job with that. But speaking of builds, you don't have just contestant created builds. You have all these other builds that go on with the episodes too. And I know Nathan Sawaya, who's infamous in the Lego world, you know, as part of that, at least in the first season, is he still involved, or do you guys have a team that kind of builds those things for you per episode?
No, he is still very much in the set design and set dressing and these big pieces you see. It's very much Nathan. And I think you can really see, if you know Nathan, you can really see his style in everything that's there. He really celebrates the studs. He has this really like blocky effects, and from far away things look so incredible, and then you go up and you're like, wow, that's Lego bricks. That's amazing. But we do have, as we said, this challenge team that work on testing out the challenges, who also help us many times if we need small builds, we need something fast. I think sometimes you see, especially in this season, there's some things where we're like, oh, we need to explain, what does that mean? It's terminology that's a bit confusing, or we're really judging on this criteria, but maybe people at home don't know it. And then we're like, can someone really quickly, like in 10 minutes, build this thing? Like, this is the brief. It needs to look like these are the elements. So we have some people to help us out with that. Sometimes Jamie and I build those. Jamie spends some time building some of those, but sometimes you're like, literally there's 3 minutes and 3 minutes and I'm doing this other thing.
Yeah, I think what some people might not realize is just how dynamic an environment it is. And so sometimes with creative people come really great ideas fairly late in the process. And so there might be a change in direction where Will wants to do this bit that could be really funny, but now he needs a prop. And that's what's really nice, having some of these super talented builders on set that can help us with that. So it's definitely a team effort, but Nathan is a superstar, and I give him all the credit in the world for those really big, impressive pieces. I'm actually amazed that he can pull it all off.
He is very impressive as a builder, I will say.
Well, what is it like working with Will? And believe you can be honest. If you want to be honest with us, you can tell us.
Well, honestly,
okay. Finally share this.
He makes it really difficult for us because he makes us laugh. And then Jamie and I are like, what am I talking about again? What's going on here? And actually, I have to say, Will loves that. Will loves when he kind of messes up our lines because he's told a joke that we just cannot stop thinking about. But he's a seriously fun guy to work with. And I think also, us being newbies to TV, he, especially in season 1, was a really good coach for us. And he was like, guys, by the way, it's a bit weird when you do that, or you're going to want to look at the cameras here, by the way, that you want to look at. And a lot of these things that you actually don't think about when you've never been on camera before. He was a really good coach to us in that.
But I think he's also a good coach to the builders, because this is a super stressful environment where you have to do something on the clock, all these cameras around, we're coming in, checking in with them. And Will knows that. And I think what he's particularly good with is just connecting with people. And you've probably seen there's some very different personalities on the show. And for him to have that talent, that he can go in and adjust to each of the groups and know how he can get them out of a tough spot, how he can give them that extra, you can do this, or just distract them with something fun to give them this moment of reset. I think that's where he's really, really good with that. So you've seen it probably with the builders, but he also does that with us, which I think is super cool, that he has that talent. He's just a people person. And his best days, I've probably oversaid this too many times, but his best days are when they have to like stop everything because the camera crew is just laughing. and I think that's what he's always striving for, is he wants to do something fun. He needs to be entertained himself. And if he's having fun, you definitely will see everybody else having fun.
It just seems like such a wonderful environment to be in. And I guess we got to wrap things up. But one final question: what advice would you give for anyone who is looking to come on the show? I know, Jamie, you said be willing to be ambitious. Is there anything else that you want to leave our viewers with?
I think something really interesting this season is at least a couple of teams trained up some of the techniques they were less comfortable with. So I think watch the previous episodes, see some of these smaller techniques, like how you can build something spherical, make round shapes, how you can make something strong. I think brushing up on those small tips and tricks, you can find also lots of YouTube tutorials that teach you on that. I think just getting some basic skills down is really useful, so you're kind of ready for anything that's going to be thrown at you, because we're going to throw some wild challenges at you.
Yeah, and I think that you can definitely prepare on some level, but I don't think anybody was expecting a rodeo bull to be shown.
That's fair.
So that's where you kind of have to get comfortable with, you're going to do things you never thought were possible. But the cool thing is everyone else has to go through that same experience. And I think we've seen the room benefit from everybody else in the room. Like, there's no such thing as an I in this program. It's all about Lego Masters. There's a team of people. There's 2 people that succeed. So I think the more they can get comfortable with playing to the strength of another person, and also growing, looking at the room and saying, we're seeing some really cool stuff that people are doing. Can we learn from that and actually improve even once we're on the show? I think some of our best teams have expressed exactly that this has been like their playground, that they never imagined they would grow and learn as much as they did, just because they were around so many inspiring people doing things that none of them thought were possible.
I mean, I think the talent is top tier. I think that's abundantly clear. All right. Well, I think that does it for us. Jamie and Amy, again, thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk with us today. We really appreciate it.
It's been a blast.
Fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.